As much as we think we know about America, we are still uncovering hidden truths about our nation. The story of our founding fathers, like Thomas Jefferson, are known to us, their legacies preserved in documents, monuments, books, and institutions. The lives of others, like Robert Hemmings, have been relegated to the footnotes and shadows of history. Present-day Declaration House sits on the historic location where Thomas Jefferson and Robert Hemmings spent several months in Philadelphia during the drafting of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Jefferson, then 33 years old, was in Philadelphia representing Virginia at the Second Continental Congress, where he served as principal author of the Declaration. Hemmings, a 14-year-old black enslaved valet, was brought by Jefferson to Philadelphia from his Monticello plantation in Charlottesville, Virginia. There are no known images of Hemmings. Declaration House is a monument to American independence, but it only tells part of the story. While Jefferson drafted the Declaration, Robert Hemmings tended to his needs, embodying the unspoken contradictions of Jefferson's vision for America. In 2023, artist Sonya Clark channeled the legacy of Robert Hemmings and brought his presence to light at Declaration House. Commissioned by Monument Lab, Clark gained access to the Philadelphia landmark and collaborated with Monticello, where she researched, documented, and connected with Hemmings' descendants, as well as the collateral Descendants of Monticello. Her journey culminated in a public art installation at Declaration House.
Robert Hemmings was here. How do we mark his presence here? He's present in his descendants. The idea of this project brings our past into the present so that there is no way of ignoring the past. It has been a really wonderful day today as we've been sort of stepping into history. One of the things that I'm always doing is sort of finding the dust in the corner of places. So being in this museum today has allowed me to not only hear the stories, and also trying to figure out how, as an artist, doing what I do can help people find themselves in the context of those histories. One of the very first things that I encountered is this wall that is backlit version of the Declaration of Independence. And there's this really poetic moment of seeing where people have rubbed against that wall and the words of the Declaration, because of people's presence, has been erased. And it makes me think about all the erasures that have happened in history. Robert Hemmings was in this space, but potentially the erasure of Robert Hemmings also inhabiting this space, right? And so it gets to this place of putting in the ghosts of our ancestors into the fullness of this space, bringing those stories full and true.
At Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, more than 400 enslaved people lived and labored over his lifetime. Among them, his own blood relatives. They built his home, worked the land, and served him, while their own dreams of freedom were deferred and unrealized. When Jefferson died, many of these people, these family members, were sold to pay off his debts, their fates scattered across the South. Jefferson carried a torch for liberty, but life at Monticello tells a more complicated truth. Here, the paradox of America's founding is rooted in the very soil. Gail Jessup White is a descendant of the Jefferson, Hemmings, and Hubbard families at Monticello. Monticello's Getting Word project, which began in 1993, documents and preserves the stories of descendants like White, reclaiming the voices of those enslaved there and the stories once lost. The project works to tell a more complete story of Jefferson and our nation, inviting us to look deeper into the lives of those whose histories have been buried for too long.
Let me give you a little more background. This space was originally, as I said, the first kitchen here. If you look over the railing here, you can see where there was what would have been considered like a stovetop. So I want you to imagine these two men, James Hemmings and his brother Peter, in this space. One, to be freed after his brother learned the art of French cookery. One, to remain enslaved until he was 56 years old. That 56-year-old man was auctioned on the West Lawn 6 months after Jefferson died, January 1827 was when the auction happened. That man was my 3 times great-grandfather, Peter Hemmings. When this space was excavated, the archaeologist called me over and invited me to go into this hole. It was a hole at that point. And I got down in that dirt and rubbed my hands in it and rubbed that soil, rubbed that dirt, that clay, because I wanted to get that close to my family. Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826. 6 months after he died in January 1827, we believe that those people were sold in this spot, here on the West Lawn. And just so you know, this is the view that's been memorialized on the nickel. There's something right here.
It's interesting just to find it. It's almost like Braille. It feels small to my fingers, but also I wonder if we know that they're children's fingerprints because the experienced brickmakers wouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah. I keep trying to put myself in the shoes of a 10-year-old enslaved kid who's out here in the sun, perhaps watching the bricks that I made go in here. You know what I think they felt?
That's my brick.
That's exactly right.
Then this is my building.
That's right.
Because that's my brick.
Because that's my brick.
What I want you to do is I want you to look into the camera lens, and when you do that, I want you to think that it's not just your eyes, it's just not just a mirror of you, but it's the eyes of your ancestors that you're looking at as well.
The names that are associated with the project are my ancestors. The first one is Elizabeth Hemmings. The second one is George and Ursula Granger. And the last family is the Evans family.
I think of eyes as being not only watchful and bearing witness, thinking that even when we don't see the eyes of someone like Robert Hemmings, that those who were related to him hold the genetic material of his legacy and his identity. My idea for the project was to get descendants, Robert Hemmings descendants, people who are descendants from Monticello, to have their eyes in these windows. Can you see that there are eyes in there? Have some video of your eyes. So you're going to be looking in the camera, just videotaping this part, because we're just going to take one eye and enlarge it to go in the window. So we're here in Charlottesville, Virginia, in Monticello, which is to meet the living Black descendants of Robert Hemmings, so that we can see their ancestors in their eyes, and we get to move with them across time and space to Philadelphia and fill the Declaration House with their presence. That they are also filling that space with spirit, and in that way there's kind of a haunting and claiming of space, for making more room for the space of those unnamed people who have been here and those who are named in their stories. We too are bearing witness.
There have been great lies told about slavery, and we just want to see that the truth is told and our ancestors are honored, because if it wasn't for the slaves here in Monticello, Monticello wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't have been built.
That is exactly right. What I was going to say to you is, when you look in here and you say, I can see my eyes, they are so much more than your eyes. They are all your ancestors' eyes.
I would like people to know about my family story, that they were proud, they were courageous, they were intelligent, and they were very loving. And you know what else? They loved America. Despite what America did to them, they still love this country, and they passed that down to their descendants.
I want people to know that the Hemmings family are part of the American fabric, that were educated, that were skilled craftsmen, traveled internationally to Paris in the 1700s, and insisted to keep the family always together.
With blessings from the Getting Word Project, Clark accessed over a century of ancestral photographs in the archive to find connections across time and bring more descendants into the fold. Harnessing advanced imaging software tools, she united the gazes of Monticello's living heirs with the archival images of their ancestors. With this reunion of eyes, Sonya Clark illuminated the soul of Monticello within Declaration House, uplifting the presence of Robert Hemmings and his legacy in the birthplace of liberty.
When I came to this space, watching how it was seen at the light of day to when the earth turns away from the sun and we have the darkening of the day and the eyes emerge brighter and brighter and brighter until the building becomes a lighthouse. And these eyes, these descendants, they become beacons towards the vision of what a multicultural democracy really would look like.
I really truly hope and pray that my eyes will show my descendant the love I have for who I am. I am really truly seeing who I am and where I'm coming from.
Oh, they're here, yeah. Oh, I gotta get a picture for Jess.
Bringing attention to Robert Hemmings, we're talking about having a person who was enslaved standing over Jefferson's shoulder as he wrote, "All men are created equal," and bringing that to light.
Most of what I do connected to any of this is my idea of bringing my ancestors out of history because, they didn't get much publicity.
My grandfather and I, we hopped right off the train to Philly and came there first. And when I saw that it was actually moving, it felt more of a life kind of quality to it. And strangely, I looked across the street and I said, that's me. I was able to see my personality in it and everything.
What I want people to know about my family story is that we are multifaceted, we are powerful, we are resilient, and we are strong, and share in all of the human experience, whether that's love, loss, life, and to be able to see that through generations is what I hope that my family is remembered for.
America's founding was never just the white men founders that we learned about in school. That from the beginning, there have been indigenous people, there have been enslaved people, there have been free Black people who ultimately worked to make those ideals that are expressed in the Declaration of Independence. And all of us played a role in making it happen. All of us have played a role in holding America accountable. And all of us have a role to play in making sure that we retain those rights.
Monument Lab is celebrating the opening of the Declaration House Public Art and History Exhibition.
In fact, if the Declaration had done the work that it should have done in the first place, we wouldn't have the work that we have to do now, right? But when we're on the street corner with everybody here witnessing this work that is for everybody and about bodies that were excluded, then it is doing the work that the Declaration of Independence faltered in doing.
And I say to you today, despite all the atrocities that have occurred to people who look like me, I still love America. It's my country. I'm reclaiming that space, this country as mine.